Everybody, we are back. It is Tape to Live's favorite podcast, favorite channel, favorite everything. We are back. You guys already know what to do. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe. Hit the like button if you don't like it. Hit the dislike button if you don't. Let me start that again. Hit the like button if you don't like it. Hit the like button if you like it. Hit the like button if you don't like it. Leave a comment if you like it. Leave a comment if you don't like it. I'm already messed it up today, Glenn. But also follow us on Twitter at the Mark John NFL for me, at Glen Rockney for Glenn, and of course Panda Subs TDL discount code for 35% off at pandasubs.com. All right, after I messed up the intro, we are here today talking some Raiders football. We got some action this week though. We got the Devontae Adams on his tour, his talking tour, and we got a documentary. You know what I mean? We got a lot of stupid comments on Twitter. I feel like that's what we're gonna be talking about for the next month during the show. Is just stupid ass comments on Twitter. We're gonna be talking about that a lot. I got some Football Outsiders stuff. I thought Football Outsiders was fair, so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And then of course, we're gonna do our worst Raiders moments, which is gonna be fun. It's gonna be probably our funnest thing here. But how you feeling, Glenn?
Yeah, fun is not the word I would use there, but good content is what I'll say is what's going to be the result of that. No, I'm good, man. Crazy week. We don't have a lot of air conditioning out here. The heat has been melting our brains. I would imagine that's the excuse for a lot of bad comments on Twitter. You get a lot of California people without air conditioning. The brain becomes a soup, kind of a liquid form, and then you start saying weird stuff on the internet. So I'll give everybody a mulligan on that, but we will still highlight that stuff. Excited to talk about all this stuff. I'm about 2.5 episodes in on Receiver. Enjoy a lot, so I'm ready. But I've seen all the Adams stuff. It's the age we live in. Spoilers do not matter anymore.
Nope.
But for the sake, I'm glad I know. For tonight. So you're drinking a Voodoo Ranger. I'm having a Ballast Point Watermelon Dorado.
Okay.
Everybody asks. So, Marcus, we got to get you into chilled glasses. We got to get
okay. All right.
glass. We got to step the game up a little bit. But because that Voodoo Ranger is suffering in that can. I just want you to know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's a good point, man. I can get it out the can, get it something nice,
frosty.
Iced out. Right? Yeah. Nice and iced. Yeah. It'll be nice, man. So yeah, I mean the receiver is crazy. We'll talk about that a lot. I mean he was also talking a lot too. I mean that's one thing we've seen him been doing a lot here is just talking. I mean with Adams out here, it feels like every time there's something to promote that he's always the guy to promote it. Like whether it's like Taco Bell or something like that, and it puts him in the position where we have to hear him talk all the time. So, it is what it is, but he's a star player, and that's what all the Raiders really have is Max Crosby and Devontae Adams for people to talk about.
Yeah, and it's weird because on that receiver thing, he doesn't even seem like nearly the prima donna. Like the isolated clips, everyone's like, "Oh man, I thought we already knew all that about Adams, especially at that Lions game." But everybody else, Justin Jefferson is something else. I'm gonna say that much. You look at a guy like that, Amon-Ra St. Brown, not just doing the 20-yard fall down thing. Adams talks, but his way of play is still he doesn't play as much like a receiver in terms of getting down, self-preservation kind of guy. And there's plenty of evidence of that in there. But like Justin Jefferson, all these other guys, I'm glad that documentary exists because of the what it gets into as far as the diva nature of the position. It's the position. It's not the guys. Certain guys are more than others, but Justin Jefferson's like, I'm a different person when I put on 2 chains and my sunglasses. I am actually I'm trying to think like how rappers like they'll go under a different name for an album and stuff like Redman or something. I'm like Muddy Waters or something. It's like you just laugh. You laugh at certain things. Like Slim Shady and like Eminem is what I think. It was just this stuff they do. These guys got to do that to get worked up. So with Adams, I think he likes to talk, but I think he has this kind of like almost mob boss style demeanor to him that is different than other receivers because he's not flashy in the way he's not yelling at people,
Yeah.
Like he gets emotional, but he's very much kind of Michael Corleone in a sense, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel that. I kind of feel the same way about Adams. Watching that show, I mean, I'm on St. Brown's one who was cracking me up, man. That dude's intense. He's got.
But also Antoine Randall going up to him. It's like, what are we going down after 20 yards? That's what we're doing. Like, your game is yak. He's a yak guy. Like, I'm watching it with my wife, and she knows who these guys are, but she, doesn't know that that's his game, right? The intermediate route, kind of get the ball and run. And I'm just like, hey, if you're not ready to play, you're not ready to play. Like this, you're 25 or whatever, 26. Like it's playing like Isaac Bruce on the Niners.
Yeah.
Man, that was it's. St. Brown's interesting, dude, with the whole like his family. And I will say, every NFL player I know that's been lifting weights since they were 5, a lot of soft tissue injuries, like mimosas. That's all I'm saying.
We'll see. We'll see, man. And it's intense. It is intense, dude, for sure. All right. So what we're talking about today, we're talking about Adam's comments on O'Connell. Of course, tight ends shouldn't block, which I still think is a hilarious comment. I still can't believe that guy said, what the hell does that even mean? Dude. I mean, how did they not get the meaning of that?
I know what they're saying. I will explain what they're saying, but I will also explain why it's wrong. So that's fine.
Oh, I got what they're saying too, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's come on, bro. Like you're being like, if Kyle Shanahan, like to me, it's like if Kyle Shanahan said that, they wouldn't say that.
Exactly.
And then Netflix receiver review. We'll talk more in depth about that, and then I'll get the Football Outsiders Almanac. I got a kind of exclusive look at that, which I think is actually a fair assessment of the Raiders, to be honest. I thought it was fair. Everybody else is like, oh my God, they're going to lose this many games. And I thought they have like a fair assessment of where the season might go, like basically kind of the lowest point, in my opinion, which I think is realistic. So I want to, give a little bit look at that. And then we're just going to talk about our little therapy of terrible moments as a Raiders fan. So
a lot of therapy this summer. Yeah.
I mean,
we need a better help. We need a better help ad read over here. I'll do it with you. It'll just be right before the Raiders therapy segments. We should just do. Come on, guys, pay us.
We're better help. Yeah, definitely let us know. I see all those ads on YouTube all the time. Better help. We're right here. We're helping Raider Nation all the time. Get through, especially the instant reactions, man. Instant reactions are definitely after a loss that we shouldn't have, right? After a big win, it's a great, and then the next week we have the worst loss, and it's just doom and gloom in the instant reaction, and we're just kind of going back and forth, and having a doom and gloom season. It wasn't as bad as in 2022. In 2021, I felt like the instant reactions got really bad because they're like 5-2 and they're like good, and then just started losing like all the time, and they looked awful, and everybody was getting in trouble. Instant reactions were very depressing.
Yeah, that was me and Matt Fallon that year. We're just like, he would be like hammered in Sacramento in his backyard off like 48 White Claws, and then like I'd be drunk here, and we would just be like, it was a crazy year.
Yeah, that was a crazy year. But let's get into these comments from Devontae Adams about Aiden O'Connell, which I thought was interesting. I feel like I was watching Brett Coleman today. I was watching Brett Coleman's kind of like preview of the Raiders, right? And the most interesting thing to me is that they didn't talk about Aiden O'Connell at all in that breakdown. It was all like Gardner Minshew. They want to get it done with Gardner Minshew. And I'm thinking like, it's just weird, like that assumption in July after right now. And, so I don't know. It's just weird that like if you have the outlook of Gardner Minshew's going to start, I can see how you can be lower on the Raiders because you're like, how do they manufacture offense, right? That's probably what you're thinking. Like he was kind of hidden by saying Steichen, and Luke Getsy might not be that same type of guy. They're really low on Luke Getsy. I mean, they're more low on his run game than his pass game, which I thought was interesting. But they said something about like him running hitches. I'm like, I never seen him run hitches, but that's fine. But it was getting into like talking about like Gardner Minshew being the starter, man. Like just straightforward, Gardner Minshew is the guy. And I don't know where is that coming from? Like it's just because of how they paid him. Is that what it was about? But like it's kind of I feel like it's like ignoring everything that's happening around it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know a lot of people are like, it seems like all the framework is coming from that. Like it's a framework conversation. I'm not saying that if you think Aiden O'Connell is going to start, you think the Raiders are a 10-win team. I mean, that's just a small upside that I do think they have a chance of hitting. But like I said, there's other people, like Bootleg Football, like those guys were talking about they were the first people when Aiden O'Connell got drafted, and I was kind of like, what? Like I didn't really think much of it. They were the ones that had the good video with him that they were high on and stuff. And
Yeah.
where they were breaking down film with him and they liked what they saw, and they kept saying, I see something. I don't know what it is, but it's something that looks like a good quarterback to me. And so, again, I'm fine. You said it on Twitter. Everybody's always wrong about them. The fans, there's always these years where people are like, oh, they're going to win 2 games, or the fans think this is our year, and then they win like 7 or 8 games. And we're in this purgatorial moment with the Raiders that is not very fun to be in. However, as we'll talk about later, we all remember the dark middle, the dark ages, like the plague eras. We remember those. So I think with either way, I still think with Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, I think if you're looking at it from an outside perspective, I don't know that the win total should change that much either. Which I think is interesting, because it's kind of like, well, at the end of the day, it's still not having a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think ultimately that's where they're getting hurt in all these things, is people look at the quarterback and they can add all of these things, these Getsies, these free agency, all these things. At the end of the day, they're looking at the quarterback and saying, I don't think this is going to compete in the AFC, which is fair, but it's tiresome, and there's a lot more going on in this team than that.
Do you think if they just named Aiden O'Connell the starter, that it might be a different outlook? If they just named him the starter from the jump, you don't think so?
No, I think they'd be mad. They'd be mad that I think there'd be a whole different conversation, which I think is happening elsewhere on other outlets, is that, well, then why are you paying Devontae Adams? Why are you paying Christian Wilkins and all this stuff if you have this scab of a starter for a year? Like that's kind of their issue there.
Yeah. And this is a good point, because I thought about this too, is that you can market Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, no, he's a personality. I mean, we were talking about that a few weeks ago. He's a personality. He's the guy. I mean, like I said, his Pardon My Take interview talking about smashing his hand or something so he could get an extra year of eligibility. I mean, it's all there. The van life. And again, Raider fans are buying in because there's this, like, I don't see it, but there's like a Kenny Stabler element to him, I guess. I don't know. But I think that's what they're seeing, is this kind of like outlaw of a guy. I don't think he's the guy shooting pool, hammered at like 2 a.m. play with a 1 p.m. kickoff looming. I don't think he's that type of guy like Kenny Stabler. But yeah, I don't know. I think I don't want them to have this hype. That's the thing, is every time I get mad about this, I'm like, I also don't want them to be the hype team this year either. I kind of want them to be the team that's 3-1 to start the year, where everyone's like, where did they come from?
Yeah.
And we'll all know where they came from. We will know. But I want the media to be a little behind, which it looks like maybe they are, hopefully.
Yeah, they are, because just at this point thinking Minshew's going to start, I thought was crazy just watching that preview. But here's what Adam said. I said, I think right now, if I had to say, I think Aiden has the job, because obviously he was here before, and that's the way that it was. Adam said he was running with the ones more until Gardner comes in and takes the job away from him. I think it's Aiden's job right now. He's doing what he's got to do to hold on to it. So one, this comes back to a couple things for me, just reading this quote. I thought they were sharing snaps.
I think okay, so you have to realize this. I think that comes from like the Dov Klymans, all those like weird Israeli run NFL accounts. Like those, I don't know what happens with those accounts, but they all happen to be guys that like live in Israel that like tweet about the NFL. I have no idea, but these guys that need a story. There's really no quarterback battles happening other than this.
Yeah,
this is one of the first time in forever, and it's been like this the last couple of years. This is one of the first ever quarterback battles that's happened in a long time. Like, so that it just seems very, very strange. Or not strange. It just seems like an opportunity for somebody to talk about a quarterback controversy, because that does make the game fun. That makes this time of year, July, when nothing's happening, kind of fun. Even though the NFL is getting better at filling in the dead months, it's the only one. Right, it's the only actual like this guy versus this guy. They're gonna compare. On the tablets, the coaches are gonna be sweating out watching film on the tablets. Who do we start? I don't think it's that way, but I can see people framing it. People that do engagement baiting, like even NFL.com does it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird that they're kind of like trying to force a battle here, because I hear somebody says whoever learns the playbook, my man Kenny P here. Maybe, but Minshew probably knows the playbook better than him. But the thing is, like, Adams has to be happy. I mean, we'll get to that later on. but it's very important, and I think it's very important to this team. And I think he has a lot more vocalness, to this, and I think he likes Aiden more than other people think too. I think um, he's very nice to him. Like he's just not like how he was reacting the other way. And I feel like I'm getting into the receiver show too much, but it kind of plays into this conversation because that's why I think Aiden has the run on him because Aiden has Adams behind him. And that's going to be the main guy in his corner. To have him in your corner is big in his quarterback battle because he's the guy who's going to get the targets. If he wants O'Connell throwing him the ball, and he feels more comfortable with that. And he felt more comfortable with that than Jimmy Garoppolo, which, we could talk about how much better Gardner Minshew is than Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, that you can get into that conversation, right? Mm-hmm. And if he felt more comfortable with that, then he's going to feel more comfortable with this. So that's why I feel like it's just the conversation keeps getting pushed. Devontae Adams keeps coming out there, and that's the thing is Devontae wants him to start. So he's going to start week 1. I feel like that's going to be a thing. And if he loses the job, he loses the job. If he loses the job, then the Raiders aren't winning anyway. So maybe he deserves to lose it. So, it's not going to be, this isn't like the 90s where, the Raiders could start off 4-1 and we're like questioning whether the quarterback is good enough. Like if they start off 3-1, then he's probably playing pretty well. He's probably playing okay. He's playing good enough. So if he gets replaced and they're playing bad, he deserves to get replaced. We got to see what happens with Minshew. So that's the truth.
Didn't you think it was interesting when Devontae, and again, these shows are all subject to clever editing. If you watch reality TV, editing and post-production to make things sound like that, or to put certain events after certain events, like Justin Jefferson talking to Jim Nantz about, his hamstring gritty and then like hurting his hamstring. It's like that makes it more than what it actually is. So yeah. There's all that. But I thought Adams was interesting where he was kind of like, look, I want to win, but I want to be the guy too. And that's what people got to realize about this. Wide receiver, they compete against each other. It is a team sport, but they compete against each other. It's a little different than like D-line. It's a little different than some of these other position groups where Adams is saying like, we're just like D linemen, when he's talking to Max Crosby. And it's like, well, kind of, but you guys argue about targets a little bit more than D linemen argue about, who gets to the quarterback and stuff. So he wants to be fed. And look, Luke Getsy's got to be Adams. We have to understand that Adams was somewhat instrumental in getting Getsy here. And it can't be nothing, right? It can't be nothing. So if they're not good, and if he says, look, Aiden's the guy here, and then Luke Getsy is the offensive coordinator, and they don't score points this year, I'm kind of looking at Adams.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and he could say, oh, I want to trade. It's like, well, I understand maybe neither of these guys are going to be the Aaron Rodgers level quarterback, but what did you want? Why did you want Luke Getsy? Why did you want Aiden O'Connell over Minshew? Why did you want these guys, right? You have to ask him. There's some accountability on his part, and he does seem mature enough to take it, but he definitely wants that ball.
Yeah. I did see somebody said that they ignored the Christmas game, which I thought that was interesting too. Like, why didn't they show that game? That was very important in their season, like to the morale with Antonio Pierce. Like they kind of just skipped over it. I was like, because that game probably would have told a lot about everything about because they were they were god awful in the passing game, god awful, right? But they still found a way to win. But the thing is, like he was getting targets that game, and like they weren't throwing the ball at him. That's where he was throwing the ball for the most part. So, I mean, it's probably not a factor because I really what I think what happened, and we're getting into receiver before I get to the tight end. We might as well just start talking about it. But really what kind of happened with the show, to be honest, is once he stopped throwing his helmet around for Jimmy Garoppolo, he kind of died off a little bit in the show. Like the more relaxed and happier he got in his situation, like they didn't have as much of a story. So they kind of like faded him out a little bit. That's why they didn't get into the Chiefs game. They kind of like rushed it through it. They went right to the Colts game where he was getting targets. It was kind of that story. And you saw like more with like, Amon St. Brown. But, because it makes sense because, the Raiders didn't make the playoffs. But I just feel like Justin Jefferson got a little bit more of a push later on than like Devontae Adams because he wasn't throwing his helmet anymore.
Yeah, well, and then UDC brilliantly points it out. I did see this, but I wouldn't have mentioned it without UDC pointing it out. Did you see Mahomes was an executive producer for the show?
Great point. He's like, no, don't show that.
Yeah, he's like, I didn't think that was instrumental. Mahomes was like, it didn't mean anything to their season. Didn't mean anything to ours. We never lost a game afterwards, and we were pissed. But it didn't mean it. Yeah, no, I know. Mahomes is like, I forgot it happened. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whatever, bro. You see that you're right about that. See, I already thought about it from that angle. Hating ass Patrick Mahomes. That's what that was. He's a damn hater. And it makes sense
He's
because
got
they
the
kicked
right
his ass that game.
Mm-hmm.
We kicked their ass. I'm still proud of that game. I don't care what happened last season. That game made me feel good. All I wanted them to do was beat the Chargers and the Broncos, and they beat all three. I'm cool. I was good. I was like, hire an AP right now. We're good to go. But let's talk about the beginning of receiver, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think if Jimmy Garoppolo was about to get him traded to New York, we were on that road, right? Let's just say they beat the Bears. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If they beat the Bears, that was like a pivotal game because they probably lose to the Lions the next week, right? But if they beat the Bears, we're going into like further into the season with Jimmy Garoppolo as the quarterback. Man, he might have been a Jet. He was on that path.
Yeah, I mean, look, you don't like your head coach. He took the job. I do believe not took the job. He asked for the trade. I do believe he wanted to trade for Derek Carr, which I think that's kind of a dumb reason to ask for a trade somewhere, especially in the NFL nowadays, where it's like Derek Carr didn't win Super Bowl, so it's not like he's there forever in their jerseys in the rafters or anything. It's like it's a weird. It's like saying I want to go play with Ryan Tannehill. And it's like, well, all right, we don't want Ryan Tannehill next year. So where do you want to play after that? Or who do you want to play with after that? So it's kind of an odd decision on his part.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have him, but it was a very odd decision. So after that, once Derek Carr leaves, you are stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo, who some of the greatest things about the receiver documentary were all the injury stuff, like with the trainers and stuff. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to give you plenty of opportunities for the training room because wow, you're just going to get like absolute like knuckleball chain or even like change ups in the middle of the field, get decked. He's going to get hurt too. Jimmy's going to get hurt on the same play. And then it's like, man, I don't want to play with that, especially if he's not a guy that even like focuses and understands he has a number one wide receiver. So you're stuck with those guys after Derek Carr leaves. I understand the frustration. I thought everybody, Raider fans at least, I thought everybody knew that whole like I'm tired of this shit thing or I want out of here kind of in the Lions game. I thought everybody knew that. I remember you could read his lips on the broadcast because it was a Monday night game. You could read his lips and understand that. But I guess getting it highlighted again, the rumors to the Jets are dumb, and also the rumors of Rodgers to the Raiders. Like it's such a weird dove climbing. I keep bringing his name up, but it's a very that type of inorganic process that I don't like.
Yeah, it's the Lions game when he was like throwing his helmet and stuff. It made it like dramatic for the show and it really good for the show in my opinion. But also just showed to me the frustration with Josh McDaniels. I think Josh McDaniels did not handle that team well. Even if he made that decision to come here for Derek Carr, kind of like trading for a guy like, yeah, man, we're reuniting with your boy, and then you trade the guy away. It makes it a little bit funny of a conversation, and then you bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And then Jimmy Garoppolo's almost getting you killed out there. And it was just interesting, like with Aiden O'Connell too, like how the kind of the show changed too. That's what I was talking about, like how he kind of faded out. Like you'll notice it when you get deeper into the show, he fades out a little bit because his story gets a little bit more boring. Because like with Aiden O'Connell, and even there's like a point where like Brian Hoyer is trying to like talk to him because he's pissed at the Patriots game because Brian Hoyer missed him on a wide open fade or whatever. So he's Brian Hoyer is trying to talk to him, but like Aiden, he's like super cool with them, and like I don't know what that's about. I don't know if that's like he just respects him or he kind of feels some kind of connection with him. I don't know what's happening with that, but man, he really kind of gravitated to him, which I thought was super interesting through that show, and it just became a side story a little bit. Like there's a point where like Aiden O'Connell, I think the Giants game, like the first drive or something like that, he didn't get a lot of targets, maybe the first couple of drives, and they're scoring touchdowns. He comes up to him and says, "Hey man, I know I saw you up there," and he's like, "Man," he was like, "Don't worry about it, man. We're good. Don't worry about stuff like that." But like, and he was just throwing his helmet like two games ago about the same damn thing. So it was like. It was such a dynamic change, and that's why I think like Aiden O'Connell's a starter, because if he has that kind of conversation with him, that kind of connection with him where he feels like that it's not really bothering him when he's not getting the ball, then it makes a different dynamic, in my opinion.
Well, dude, you have like another thing I wanted to bring up about this is I thought also to bring up the injury thing again. You kept bringing it up last year. I remember because I would privately hit you up and be like, "Does it look like he can't separate anymore?" You know, like Devontae Adams. But then you see how bad that shoulder injury actually was.
Yeah.
And for somebody like me, I didn't play football growing up, and I have fantasy teams where these guys are robots to me. I'm like, you need to get out there and play. I don't care about your hamstring. A lot of football fans are like that. It does humanize the game a little bit, and you're just kind of like, okay, that makes sense that would linger with him for the rest of the year, you know. And
Yeah.
so much of that hand fighting and so much of just maybe reaching for a certain ball or doing certain things to get separation. It's tough to do. And I think he did it. You know, again, he still had 1,100 yards for the year, and so it's
100 catches.
Yeah, exactly. So again, he's still able to do that in a bad year. So this year I was kind of a little bit like, is this going to be the last year of Adams? Is this going to end poorly? But that actually showed me, even though it makes the Raiders look like this awful, awful team, you know, the documentary, that showed me like you can still run the offense through him. Because I was kind of hoping they would view him as a big part, but not the offense. But at this point, if he comes back and he's healthy off that shoulder, it's all there.
Yeah. Yeah, because to me, that's what I saw last year. Is him kind of just fall off in the film a little bit, and I think later on in the year he got a lot better. He's getting better later on in the year, but I still think that there's going to be some corners in the NFL that can lock him up more than they could a couple years ago. Like, you know, Sauce Gardner gave him issues, and that was, you know, I know he was injured, but Sauce Gardner gave him issues. Snead really gave him a lot of issues, right?
Snead's a beast,
right? He's a beast, man. He locked up Ayuk. Ayuk's on podcast complaining, but like, I watched that film, bro. You weren't open, so I don't know what you're talking about. But you know, with Adams, they're gonna move him around. I tried to show that on my last TDL episode. They're gonna move him around a lot. This is not gonna be. We're gonna put Devontae Adams outside. He's gonna be Randy Moss. Or we're trying to throw fade routes to him, or try to throw these deep routes to him. They're gonna move him around a lot. He's gonna be all over the place, and he's gonna have a lot more efficiency on his targets, I would think, because you know I saw there's that one Warren Sharp, he had that tweet out today about 4 out of 26 on deep balls and stuff like that. I don't think they're going to be trying to play offense like that. I mean, they got to get better at those type of plays, and we need the Raiders got to hit those fade routes. They got to hit those type of routes where they're going downfield, they're hitting those type of routes, right? They need to hit those, but I think they're going to find different ways to manufacture him the football. I think it's going to be more like it was in Green Bay. Like when he was with the Raiders, he had an average target yards. It was like 14. When he was with the Packers, it's 9.8. So there's a difference there between where he was getting the ball thrown to him than it was in Green Bay. And I think that we're going to go see him being that more short yardage kind of Reggie Wayne type of receiver that it really is, right? He's not Randy Moss. I mean, he did it really well. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, he got 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns playing Randy Moss. So it's just not something sustainable in my opinion, when I think he's more like a Reggie Wayne type of receiver. I mean, that's really kind of my comp for him. I don't know. I just came up with that, but it definitely fits.
I like Reggie Wayne comp for him a lot.
Yeah,
I do too. Yeah,
but he could kind of work him around a little bit, move him around. He can still win outside, especially there's not many corners that can stop him in the NFL. Let me just say that. I mean, like Surtain's would give him some issues, some guys like that. But if you move him around, get him on safeties and slot corners, they're done. So O'Connell's just got to hit him and hit him when he's open. But I think he's good. I think the targets could be between him, the two tight ends, and Tucker, and Jacoby Myers is probably going to steal some just because that's what he does. He steals targets. So
I'm hoping that Tucker has that big step up this year. Again, we've talked about it. He looks a lot stronger. If you look at the picture, he looks like he's really. Antonio Pierce said he had probably the best offseason out of any player. He just really looks like he's ready to take that jump, and I certainly hope it happens, because if he is that downfield. I hate saying the name, but he was the guy, Henry Ruggs, to kind of make defenses play different. Even if you were worried about maybe stopping somebody else, you still had to account for the home run, and the Raiders didn't really have that last year outside of Tucker, but he was a rookie. So if Tucker can make that change, if they can find a way to get Mayer down 20, 25 yards downfield,
Yeah.
down in the seam. If that can happen, I feel real good about that.
Mhm.
It's up to Getsy. There's weapons on this team. There's not a lot of deep speed, but there's guys that can win down the field. Heck, I mean Bowers, I think, can do it too. Just
Yeah.
a lot of guys on this team, and I'm hoping one of the UDFA's becomes kind of a developmental speed guy down the field. We'll see. That allows Adams to me to be a more volume, move the chains guy, and then red zone. I think he's a monster in the red zone. I mean, he's one. As far as receivers in the red zone, I mean, Crabtree's the last guy I remember feeling super confident about a Raider receiver in the red zone. And Adams is way better than Michael Crabtree. Yeah.
Yeah. Adams is, yeah. Adams has a chance to have a special year. He does, like every year, right?
Mhm.
And I think he's kind of shown he's quarterback proof.
Agreed.
And if Aiden O'Connell could just get on the same page with him, which I think is an issue with a lot of quarterbacks, and I think a second year with Devontae Adams, kind of get more on the same page with him with what he likes to do, because he's so unorthodox. You don't, to be honest, he's gonna decide what he wants to do with the route. So if he feels like he wants to go inside and your route's going outside, and Devontae feels like he wants to go inside, and now he has the freedom to do that, because Luke Getsy ain't saying shit to him. I mean, Josh McDaniels might have said something to him, but Luke Getsy ain't saying shit to him. Antonio Pierce ain't saying shit to him. He's going to do whatever the hell he wants. So it's going to be important for O'Connell to get on the same page with him. And you got to read it like he reads it. And that's what Aaron Rodgers was able to do, which is, it's high level, because he literally, he's going to do what he wants. It's like, even on the receiver show, he was telling, Aiden O'Connell, you saw Jimmy Garoppolo, it's like, I'm not running the dig on Dagger this time. I'm going straight up. Yeah. So if you're going to see me,
sucks, Jimmy. I know you're here because of our coach, but he's terrible. I'm going to go do this instead. I'll be wide open. And Jimmy's like, what?
What do you mean by that?
What?
And it worked too. It worked too.
Sure.
I don't know, man. That was a terrible play. That's what I'm saying, because it worked. Because you saw Cam Sutton, he expected to dig. He went fully inside. Like, he was going, I'm going to get. They run the same plays over and over again. He went straight inside, and then there is Devontae Adams for a touchdown, wide open.
Crazy, yeah, just crazy. I agree 100% with what you're saying. It's just, he can still do it. I was fearful of trying to sculpt an offense around him when I thinking this year there's a lot of young talent on this team that I'd like to see assimilate and kind of start kind of staking their claim in the offense, and having it just be Aiden O'Connell peppering the ball around, kind of similar to Carr at his best, was just spreading the ball around when you'd see him as best. I was kind of hoping to see that. But, in that show, and like I said, it doesn't make the Raiders look like this amazing team. But, if you know the ins and outs of last year, which I believe we all do now, because everyone's been super public about McDaniels and Garoppolo, it does seem like he can be the guy, and then everybody else is one-on-one. Everybody else has opportunities to just beat somebody that's not as good as them, because all the attention, I think, is still going to go to Adam. The rest of the league, everybody listen to their top fives, these Cooper Kupps, these Jefferson. Everybody knows how good he is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What Cam Hayward said, that he's better than Justin Jefferson still. So that tells you how the league feels about him. And to be honest, like, I would be very hesitant to say that. But Cam Hayward didn't even think about it, because he has his own podcast too. Because I swear every player has a podcast, I feel like, these days. But he has his own podcast too, right? And he was going through which wide receiver is better than Justin Jefferson, and he basically named every single wide receiver. He got Devontae Adams. He went Devontae. So that tells you, like, how the league still feels about him, because he can dog. There's like really like 5 corners. Like, there used to be like 1 corner that can guard him. It was Jalen Ramsey. There's probably like 5 corners maybe now. Maybe that's the difference. But like, there's about 64 that play regularly, right?
How many in the division? Patrick Surtain, right? That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Snead's gone.
Snead's gone.
Trent McDuffie's a guy. Like, he is a guy. He's a guy that we're gonna have to watch out for. Trent McDuffie is the guy, like, in Kansas City this year. And of course you have Spagnuolo. He's going to figure a few things out too there. But at the end of the day, Snead was the guy that did it. Sauce Gardner, you don't play him every year.
Exactly.
Hopefully there's some high level games in, late in the year. I'm talking about postseason, of course. Like, I'm hoping that's a chance that we can get again against them. But for the most part, in the division and even in the conference, when you look at the conference, it's like, the guys are there. It's Ramsey, they're there, but a lot of those guys aren't on the schedule this year.
Yeah, they're not. They're not. I mean, probably Denzel Ward might be the toughest one, but like I said, you can avoid Denzel Ward, and
Sure.
also I feel like they play man so much, he's gonna win. Like he's gonna beat
It
Denzel
only
Ward.
takes 1 or 2 times.
Exactly, and Denzel Ward's not like he's not Snead, where Snead can just
No.
like push you around and
Yeah.
beat you up a little bit and kind of get you out of your game physically. Yeah, he could beat Denzel Ward, but like after that, man, it really is. I mean, because they don't play the Texans, right? Because I'm thinking like Stingley, they don't play the Texans. There's really not a lot of guys that they play this year
Even
that can stop
Stingley,
them.
that could end up being. He's young. He's definitely ascending. He had a bad season, not bad, but just not a great rookie season.
Yeah,
Really, really took a step last year.
he's a
Is
dog.
he there though? Like, is he
Yeah.
is he like Devontae Adams? Come here. Is he that?
I think Sauce
Okay.
Gardner stole an All Pro last year. That dude, I just never seen a corner move like him.
Yeah, no, it's there. I just
It,
mean mentality wise. Like, I don't know. I feel like.
dog.
Mm-hmm.
They, trust me, like because just for me watching quarterbacks, I'm not really even watching him, but like I've cut up clips of him like just over time. I tell you, bro, like it's the plays that he makes. Like it doesn't matter. Like the way he moves is crazy. I've never seen a corner move like him really in a long time. So he's a stud. That Texas team is loaded. I just don't know if CJ Stroud is ready to throw the ball 50 times. So
that's an interesting take. We don't need to get into it. I mean, it's not a Raider CJ Stroud stuff, but I'll put a pin in that. Yeah, that's an interesting take. Everybody else thinks he could throw it 1,000,000 times a game.
I don't know if he's ready for that. I don't know. But we'll see. That I mean, that's what's wrong with the NFL in the first place. It's like they did the Trevor Lawrence last year. It's like, oh, I got a breakout young guy. Yeah. Let me see if he can throw 50 times. Yeah. Joe Schoen's doing that with Daniel Jones this year when he's not bringing back Saquon Barkley. He's like, I got to see if Daniel Jones is worth 40 million. I'm like, bro, like, dog, how long is it going to take you to not see that he can't throw the ball 40 times a game? He's not Joe Burrow, dog. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, like more often than not, Adams is going to be playing somebody he's better than. That's just more, and I would say overwhelmingly that's going to be happening. And you never know with injuries. You never know with anything like that. He is, for the most part, a pretty durable player for how long his career has been. He's had a couple injuries, but, for the position and how big he is and how physical he plays, it does seem like those can rack up more than it has for him. And maybe Father Time does come for him in that regard. We'll have to see. I like the way the Raiders have been kind of Adams proofing the team though a little bit with the tight ends, and we'll talk about them in a sec. But I don't know. That show oddly made me more confident about Adams and Antonio Pierce, though the rest, as we said earlier, the rest of the media and country isn't going to see that because they allow a lot of people to craft narratives for them, especially for teams that, I'm sorry, the Raiders haven't won in a long time, so they can just go, yeah, it's the Raiders.
Yeah, and it's the quarterback situation. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
And I understand the quarterback situation. I do. I really do. I understand how people feel about it. I understand that fans feel like it's underwhelming and they're not really excited about what's going to happen on offense.
Sure.
I think there's a point to it. I just think they're going to be able to run the ball. So that's going to be the changing part of this is that if they can run the ball and they can play defense, they'll win some games. Are they going to win the Super Bowl? But even Brett Coleman said they're like 14th in the NFL, right? If you look at some of their metrics and where they added up, they're like the 14th best team in the NFL right now, right? And even if you look at it that way, because they can say whatever they want to say, but that's what their metrics came out to. Like at the end of the year, they're like 14th. They got a little bit better. That means they're probably going to be in the playoff race at some point. Do they get over the top? I mean, that's going to be how if Aiden takes an up step or if Gardner Minshew comes in and he kind of reins it in. We don't know. But I think with this defensive line that they're going to get some wins. But it's going to be interesting with the quarterback. Like I think I'm more optimistic because I think there's a chance that Aiden could take a leap.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's going from the rookie year to the second year, right? So there's a chance that he could just maybe see the field better. Like it's just things he's seen every coverage. I mean, he played Brian Flores, and Brian Flores made him look like he didn't know what he was doing. There's a lot of things out there that he had a chance to get better at, and that I think he played better than Levis and Bryce Young. And you can talk about situations, but I think Will Levis' situation was not that bad. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that much different. He had Hopkins. It wasn't that much different. So with those type of situations, there's a chance of him getting better that you got to be hopeful for. And I mean, that's really all Raiders fans really can hope for, is that he takes a leap.
Yeah, and
if he takes,
he'll be able to learn. He'll be able to learn an offense in the offseason, and more than likely keep it all year.
Yeah,
Levis didn't have to go through a coordinator change halfway through, unless he did. Maybe I could be speaking out of my ass there, but like, did these guys, Bryce Young, these guys? I know certain guys have been calling plays, but it's the same scheme a lot of times when they make that kind of change. I know Hardigree calls a lot of similar things, but at the end of the day, Aiden O'Connell had to go through a lot as a fourth round rookie, though. Like for a fourth round rookie to come play in his first year and be as good as some of his contemporaries, who some people might be disappointed about, but just the fact is that a fourth round pick came in and played and actually did his job and had some flashes. We all saw some flashes. Like, we all saw him. And to say you can't improve on that is where I always like, no, quarterbacks, this is a crazy league. And a lot of fans tend to not understand the way the league works. And this as a guy who watches a lot of tape. Like, there's a lot of fans that talk out of their ass, a lot of media people that talk out of their ass. And it's like, but when you listen to players and coaches talk, they're like, no, you don't understand how much of a grind this is. You don't understand how much of situation and coaching and technique and all these things that go into it. It's such a game within a game. And look, if he could also take a step back. So we don't know. But to say he's going to just stay Aiden O'Connell from year one for the rest of his career and just be nothing but a career backup, I'm not ready to go there yet.
Yeah, I'm not ready to go there yet either. But because that's the thing. Like, if you expect anybody else to take a leap, he should too, right? That's the thing. Like, it might happen. It could happen, or he could just be a backup. I mean, that's really what we're gonna find out.
We will find out. Like, and they're not tethered to him for anything. It's not. They didn't decide to pay him for the next 5 years. He's on a very controllable contract. If it doesn't work out, I guarantee you, this is going to be an aggressive team that goes all in for Josh Allen. Well, I gotta say it every episode, but other than that, like that just you gotta gotta remind everybody every time.
I don't know. That Dak buzz is just heating up, man.
It's heating up. But I think but I'm saying Jonnu Smith's talking about Buffalo's the worst city in the world right now. There's a lot of things happening with Buffalo. It could be their year to just be tumultuous and just pure turmoil in Buffalo. And Josh Allen's like, you're right, the Wings aren't good, so why am I here?
See, the thing is, like, if they traded Josh Allen, I feel like Bills fans would storm the stadium. I feel like they're that crazy. They're like secret crazy. Because that dude, like, he jumps into like a fiery like board, right? They're secretly crazy. So
fans get weird when you don't win, like, because there's the Bills of the Fred Jackson years where they were just like, they got some fun run game, but they're not good. Chan Gailey offense, they're not any good. No one cares. Trent Edwards is their quarterback. Like, you have those for a while, but then eventually you start getting used to, like, we should be winning Super Bowls. We're good. Like, we're good. We have Josh Allen. We should be winning Super Bowl. Why aren't we winning Super Bowls? And I know if a couple Bills fans, there's a lot of people that think Josh Allen's the problem. And he's not. He's not. I know he's not. But the thing is like, they get rid of Diggs, right? Obviously, like, they get rid of Diggs. And if he doesn't have anybody to throw to this year, and if he has a little meltdown on the sideline, Sean McDermott, all these things, look, I'm just saying that this is the team this year. When you're on your, like, fourth year of contention, and this is also a team that's lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. So they could be in that scenario.
Yeah.
Where they're like, it's obviously not as crazy, but it's a similar version. And we have a media cycle that is way crazier than it was in early 1990s. So you could have a situation where it's like, he might just say, maybe it's better for me to go somewhere else. Maybe I want to play indoors. Maybe I'm tired of playing in the cold. I'm from freaking Fresno, California, dude. Like,
I mean, you got support. You got some points here.
I'm manifesting. I don't even think I have a point. I'm just saying I'm manifesting this. I want it to happen. Marcus, you are into a lot of spirituality. I know we don't have to get into that, but like this is what you do when you want a player. If it happens, I got a lot,
Yeah.
there's receipts.
It could happen, man. It could happen. That would be if Josh Allen would come here. One, I would get to talk shit to my brother because my brother likes the Bills. It would be awesome for my personal life. But other than that, yeah, I like Josh. I really do. I love Josh. I think somebody talks about is he overrated a little bit, and like the QBs of this era. That's a totally different show. We'll talk about that. I think I'm gonna do like a top 32 on these Friday Night Lives when I do my list. We'll talk about that later on. Good foreshadowing for future shows, but I think the league with the quarterbacks is just these guys are more. There's more rushing here because you got to look at like the passing touchdowns. The passing touchdowns are way down, and the reason why is because these dudes are rushing more. So it's kind of like a weird quarterback era because it's like we're in between like the rushing and passing era, but it's more like a rushing era, but the quarterbacks are involved. So it's still like a quarterback league, but they're not passing, but we still depend on the quarterback because they're rushing more. It's just we're at a weird place with quarterbacks, to be honest.
I just think he's got this like I think indoors would make him I think if he played most of his games indoors, I think he'd become an insanely like better quarterback. And I also still think he's one of 5 guys where in the league, despite how quarterback driven this league is, and we talked about this, but like he's one of those guys that just when he's on the field, you're like, if you're like a gambler or something, you're like, all right, but we have Josh Allen. Like anything crazy can happen. And I think the Raiders are in a position where, again, I'm down to see Aiden for a year. I'm down to see that. Let's take a look. But if that doesn't work, swing big at the position. You need that guy that just gives you that boomer bust, and then surround him with a good team. Which, to be honest, the Bills on offense, I don't think they have nearly as good of a team as they have. I think they had Stephon Diggs. Gabriel Davis was kind of a 3 touchdowns or nothing kind of guy. Stephon Diggs was his own kind of thing, volume catcher. They didn't have a run game for a long time, and their offensive line was okay at best.
Yeah.
And for all the talk about the Bills loading up, I would look at their roster every year, and it was still Josh Allen that stuck out. And if they're dumb enough to do it, the Raiders cannot be beat there. That's all I'm going to say. So we've already spent too much time. It's a whole nother season going there. I just mean we're putting it out there.
It's a good affirmation, bro. I like it. I'm not
that's what I mean. Like I know how you are, so I'm like, you gotta feel me a little bit on that.
I 100% do.
Yeah,
I do. I do. Uh-huh. All right. So let's get this going. Let's get to this stupid comment. I don't even want to spend too much time on this. I just thought it's funny. I put my man BD in here because it's just a funny response. I didn't even see this response until I went to go make this cut up kind of thing, and I saw BD reply to it. I thought it was actually funny. But like, what, Glenn, explain to the people what he meant because you know what I mean. I was really mad about this, but
okay. So what Adam Levitan, I don't know this guy. I honestly don't know him, but he said, so there was a quote that's saying that the Raiders want to play by Luke Steckel, the tight ends coach, was saying that they might have an old school mentality. That's his approach. Tight ends are blockers first. And when we can go make plays in the pass game, that's just icing on the cake. So Adam Levitan thought he was epic and cool by screenshotting this and saying, I really hope the Raiders didn't use the 13th and 35th overall picks, the last 2 drafts for this. And then, of course, our friend BD Williams says, you literally founded something called Establish the Run. So BD's comment aside, which is incredible and great and a gotcha, and Adam Levitan should delete his Twitter account based on that reply. Other than that, the picks is what Adam's mad about. The pick numbers. Yeah. If that's he's saying, and this is a big PFF, this is a big kind of, if what you want from your tight ends is blocking, you can find that on the street for $5 million a year, right? Raiders did it with Lee Smith a long time ago in the McKenzie era, if that's what you want. Now, what's dumb is you need to understand, he didn't highlight, so he highlighted this tweet. He didn't highlight Luke Steckel, who is the tight ends coach of the Raiders. Find me a tight ends coach for an NFL team that doesn't think blocking is more important than receiving. There is every single tight ends coach in the NFL thinks that blocking is more important than receiving. It's just the nature of the game. It's like defensive line stopping the run is more important to them. Like it is. I mean, look, I could be talking about my ass there, but like linebackers, they don't want to get beat on the ground. That's like fundamentals. That is the baseline for being able to be an NFL position player. Is if you're a tight end and you cannot block, it's really hard to find a spot for you on this field, which is 100% true because these Miami teams, San Francisco, the ones that are all the media darlings every year, their tight ends block.
That's what baffled me the most. Because that's a lot of these media guys when we talk about Raiders and offseason, because that's what they do. It's like they're just poking fun at the Raiders, right? And it bothered me because, like, to even think you don't want Michael Mayer to block, like George Kittle blocks.
Yeah. How dare you, Michael? Don't you dare block that guy.
Why are you blocking? Like, because then it goes back to, well, you don't have a quarterback. Okay, so we don't have a quarterback that can throw
punished.
all the time.
They're being punished for not having a quarterback is what's happening.
We're going to run the ball, so they're going to have to block. Like,
if Jim Harbaugh said that, it would be, oh my gosh, the Chargers are back. They're back. Jim Harbaugh wants to play old school football. It's because the Raiders haven't won. Winning cures all. You're going to get dumb takes like this. And sadly, they've been right more than they're wrong. Even if they're not right about the certain position or the certain player, they're right about the record. And they can just go, well, didn't help you out. And the Raiders just need to come out and just punch everybody in the mouth and play physical football, beat teams' ass, make people come up with excuses for how it's not sustainable, and then go to the playoffs is what they need to do. And if that happens, these guys enough times, they're going to become I know I'm sensitive about YouTube, but they're going to become writers of a certain part of someone's body. That's what's going to happen when the Raiders do that. We haven't earned that yet, but it's still a really stupid comment.
It's dumb as hell. It really is. Because that's the thing. Like, you know, the reason why people will say Gronk is better than Kelsey is why? Because he blocked.
George Kittle is on the receiver documentary. There's a whole thing about how George Kittle is just like, I want to kill somebody. They
highlighted him. They highlight him pancaking Aiden Hutchinson in the NFC Championship game. And it was funny. Like, I saw that like right after I saw that tweet. It was just, it connected. Like, bro, like, do you guys not like football? Sometimes I don't think these guys actually like football. No. Sometimes
they like numbers. They like numbers. They like value. It's like this is the most human game that's out there right now.
It really is.
Basketball and baseball have been analytically quantified to a pulp. And football is the last thing where it's like, hey, are you better than that guy? Go kick his ass. And these guys have trouble with that.
Yeah, because even if you look at the best offenses in football, like all Kyle Shanahan does is he picks on a safety. He'll put Brandon Ayuk and he'll move Brandon Ayuk around and pick on the same guy the whole game. That's really what he does. And we're like, oh my God. And it's really the same West Coast plays that they've been running since the 90s. He's really not doing anything like magical, like from a play call standpoint. Is that he just has Christian McCaffrey, so he's gonna roll like Christian McCaffrey, and you're gonna have Christian McCaffrey one-on-one on a linebacker.
Yeah, and these guys are stock traders. These guys are stock traders, is what they are. Like, if you think a guy that's trading a certain stock, do you think they like the company? Not really. You know, they're trading. They're just looking at lines and stuff. And again, the Raiders have Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers. And I think Brock Bowers is going to struggle blocking, to be honest. Like I think it's going to be one of those things where it's like, he's actually, in my opinion, I kick him in the slot a lot more than I have him in line blocking. If you do 12 personnel, that's fine. But I want to be able to move him around and stuff and move him as a chess piece. Like, I actually think there's going to be clips of him getting his ass kicked and blocking. But then there's going to be clips of him kicking somebody's ass in coverage.
Yeah, because, you know, I would say the other show, I think the person who got hurt by Brock Bowers the most was Harrison Bryant. I think Harrison Bryant was brought in to be Robert Tonyan, the second tight end of Michael Mayer. Because I even saw the money he got on Coleman. He got like 4.5 million or something like that. Nice. Crazy, right? Yeah. He got some pretty decent money. And he was supposed to be Robert Tonyan. He was supposed to be like that kind of blocking tight end that comes in and helps out. And then, you know, they just couldn't pass on Brock Bowers. So I think him and Mayer kind of switched roles. Like, Mayer is going to be more of that guy because he was 10th in 12 personnel last year. They're going to be really high in 12 personnel this year. So you're going to see those guys really be part of this offense. And it was just stupid. It's just that's my whole problem is these guys don't like football. That they don't even really see where the game is going. And that's bothering me because I still have this conspiracy theory that Jim Harbaugh's back because he thinks he can run the ball now. And he left because he couldn't run the ball anymore. Because 2014 up, we don't run the ball. We stopped. Now we're like, these guys need to hand the ball off. These quarterbacks, they probably got to hand the ball off a little bit. Here comes Jim Harbaugh. He's right back here, and I think there's a factor to that. And people are going to catch on eventually.
He's like linebackers are 227 pounds. I'm back.
They played 17 games, and they got like guys with. We have 4 guys with 30 touchdowns. We played 17 games last year. That's pathetic. Like these guys need to play better, in my opinion. This is a totally side conversation, but we're stepping into a different era, like very slowly. But that's why Harbaugh's back. Harbaugh's like, you know what? I can run the ball now. Look at all these guys playing too high. I'm gonna come with Greg Roman. We're gonna run the football, and we'll see though if that works because he can't pass. You still got to pass a little bit. He can't pass at all. So that's gonna be the interesting part of him, but. Yeah, man. The Raiders, that's why the Raiders are going to be able to actually play offense, I think. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. And that's going to be a huge factor in how they play.
I agree. Sounds good.
Whatever, man. All right, let's get into I got this football almanac. Let's get into football outside. I really liked this a little bit. Let me know if you guys see that a little bit here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So some of their projections here. So they got them at 7.1 wins. 2024 mean projection 7.1 wins. They got a 22% chance to make the playoffs here. I mean, they got just as much a chance to make the playoffs as they do to suck, which I thought was fine. I mean, I kind of
I agree
with that, right? They have a 50% chance to be mediocre, which is fair, and then a 24 chance to be a playoff contender. Then we got the 4%, man. To be Super Bowl. I don't know how low that is other teams.
So you're saying there's a chance. Whoa.
There's a chance, right? 4%. That's not, that's not terrible. What are your thoughts on some of this real quick?
It's fair. I would put their win total at 7.5 this year. I think they're about a win. The Vegas total being 6.5, I think is a bit much. But I would put them at 7.5 in the AFC. In the NFC, I'd have them in the 8 range. But in the AFC, you got to kind of knock them down a peg a little bit because of the quarterback situation. I think there's truth to that. No, it's fair. It's an honest assessment. I think it's all about do you think Antonio Pierce is going to come in and change the culture? Well, I'm sorry if you saw the second half of last year, he did already. But giving him one full offseason, adding a really good defensive tackle, and keeping guys like Jack Jones and people like that, Max Crosby leading this team, Devontae Adams. There's a lot of avenues for success for this team. Yeah, the problem is they just don't have that guy that you highlight at the beginning of the broadcast, and they have this guy at quarterback. It's not there. Now, by week 7 or 8, and if Aiden O'Connell's lighting the league on fire, absolutely, he'll be that guy. So I get why in the preseason you can't be saying the Raiders are going to win a bunch of games. I think it's absolutely fair.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he made some funny comments because Mike Tanier thinks he's a comedian. So congratulations, Mr. Crosby. It's bouncing, baby. It's our head coach. 2024, the Raiders attempt to build a whole plane out of the black box, which I kind of understand what he's trying to say there. But, I want to highlight this. Okay, so if the Raiders have the 20th projected average opponent, right? And they have the defensive line that they have, they can definitely steal a lot of games just based on this. What do you think about that?
They're going to have to steal games because I don't know if you know about this. It's the autumn wind is a Raider, and they pillage, and do stuff like that. They're going to have to do that because that's the way I see them winning. They're going to have to go steal games. They're going to have to play teams that think that they can outrun them. And then when the Raiders come in physically and just overwhelm them, and the only people that aren't surprised are Raider fans, that's the type of games they're going to have to win. And I understand why in July there are outsiders saying that that's we'll see if that happens. But I just feel like there's good vibes coming into the year this year. It's been a relatively quiet off season in terms of just weird things happening, things that don't make sense. Again, I'm telling you about Alexander Madison being the thing I hate. That's a quiet off season if all I'm mad about is RB2 on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think that's a concern, but it's not. Is Antonio Brown gonna freeze his feet off and come in a hot air balloon? Like it's not that. And I'd bet the over personally, if even on Football Outsiders number. So, but that again, that's me as a fan, normally a pessimistic fan. I just really like what they're doing right now. I like the discipline that they showed in the offseason. You know, that's where I'm at. Yeah, I don't know.
So the thing is with I saw the PFF ranking of the top 10 defensive lines, and every defensive line in the top 10 except for the Jets, they all won 8 games last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the defensive line is really gonna set the tone. I think defensive line play is so important in today's NFL.
Number one,
right? It is so important, and the Raiders have one of the best defensive lines in football. And Malcolm Kuntz, if he takes a leap, right, they might be like the Jets last year, which if Tyree Wilson takes the leap, and I talk about this all the time, him turning into Jermaine Johnson, because Jermaine Johnson was not good as a rookie, and then last year he was a stud. And if they can get that type of leap from him that Jermaine Johnson took last year, and then you have Kuntz, and then you have Crosby, and then you have Wilkins, and we're playing in the AFC where these guys want to throw the ball all the time. You got Patrick Mahomes, he's going to want to throw the ball all the time. I don't know if the Chargers are, but it's kind of hard for me actually not to believe that Jim Harbaugh is not going to try to throw the ball. I just think he's not going to be able to because their offense, his passing offense is terrible. He's going to try though, right? He's got that guy. And then all the other teams are playing in the AFC. I mean, we're playing Joe Burrow. Lamar Jackson. They decide which game they want to try to throw. We don't know. I mean, do they get in the playoffs and want to play the Chiefs and want to throw the ball 80 times? It doesn't matter. We'll figure out with them. But most of the teams they're playing want to throw the football. And I think if they can have the defensive line and get after the quarterback, because also Max Crosby is one of the better. He's probably the best run defender in football at the edge position.
Yep.
Wilkins is really good against the run. You got John Jenkins, who can play on first and second down. Kuntz gets better against the run. So it's going to be hard for teams to run the ball on him. So they're going to be hard to pass on because they got to get rid of the ball quick.
Mm-hmm.
Also, they're going to be hard to run the ball on. So they're going to be playing from third and long. So it's going to be like some of these secondary guys might make the Pro Bowl because they're not going to have all these targets. Well, and some are going to get interceptions and stuff like that. It's going to happen like that.
It creates an easy interception. You know what I'm saying? It creates an easy interception, which I swear every Raiders interception I've seen in the last 10 years felt like it was like this chance thing that happened, or it was like, whoa, even like that David Amerson one where he like walked into the end zone years ago. Like it was against the Chiefs. It was like, whoa, I can't believe we got that. And you watch these other teams, like the ball just flies into their DB's hands. And that's because they have a good defensive line. And if the Raiders are up 10 points in the fourth quarter, which we've seen that a lot, and we've almost as fans anticipated it going away for good reason. They didn't have the defense. They didn't have a very good, no matter how the game's gone, they'll be up 10 points in the fourth quarter. And you just know that other team's going to make it a 3-point game. And then it's going to be, 7 minutes left in the game. And you're just like, I need something lucky to happen. Or you just have a great defensive line and they have no excuse not to be dominating. I mean, they should be top 5 in the league defensively. Like as far as defensive line, excuse me, not defensively, but defensive line, that should be the expectation. And that's the expectation inside the building, right? That's the way this team's constructed. It's the way Antonio Pierce won Super Bowls, even though he's a linebacker.
Yeah, for sure. Good. Yeah, keep starting, man. Keep going.
No, that's all I got. Yeah, that's it.
So I was just looking at some of these stats. Like, I mean, Michael Mayer has some really good DVOA last year, bro. He looks like he's he might be a stud.
It's my guy.
He might be the DVOA. I was trying to look at Zamir White here. So Zamir White, He finished with about 4.3 yards per carry last year. He ended up with about 4.7 in those last 4 games. If you look at that, though, I mean, if he can get approved a little bit, if he gives us 4.5, right?
Mm-hmm.
4.5 at a minimum. You mix in some of the other guys. Madison is the scary one because
It's very scary.
It's a little scary. But if he can, if White can be consistent, 4.5, 4.6, that's that type of number. I think they could really be able to move the ball on offense, right? And because Aiden O'Connell had a rating of 101.8 in play action last year. His rating without play action was 78. So there's a little bit of a difference there that if you can get him in play action and keep him in that and kind of do like how Sean McVay did with Jared Goff, I mean, that's really how they should do it. I know some fans got mad at me that I compared him to Jared Goff, but you have no idea how much Jared Goff used to play action. Like they used to play action like almost every play, every time they threw the ball. And, so if you can get that way with Aiden O'Connell, you can make him effective, right? And even Gardner Minshew, I mean, it's going to help him with play action too. So I think some of these things, but I'm just want to highlight that. And of course, Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker were definitely very effective. Adams is a little different, but we're not going to worry about DVOA with Adams. I don't care about that. That's stupid. But
Adams, you can just watch play and understand. Yeah, like if it's
that is good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but also a good look was the offensive line. It was a lot different than what I want to say, PFF.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I know Mumford's a little higher, but Parham is the 13th ranked guard when it comes to pressures. So I think their offensive line is gonna be really good. And then you add in Jackson Powers Johnson, they're gonna be pretty damn good at offensive line, in my opinion.
And if you have Michael Mayer run blocking, Jacoby Myers run blocking, Brock Bowers helping in where he can, and you have, hopefully a healthy Jackson Powers Johnson, Colton Miller, Parham in his position that he should be, Andre James in a scheme I think that fits him a little bit better, and then Mumford. If you have those people out there, there's no excuse to not run the football and really dominate games, dominate time of possession, create wide open looks where people go, why is this guy running free down the field? If you're the opposing team, where as Raider fans we're used to that. If that's the case, then that's the avenue of success I see. I don't see them as 5 wide, big plays all the time. I see them as absolutely, and this is where the analytics nerds get mad about the people saying and kind of roll their eyes out, but actually establishing dominance over the other team early by pushing them around. And that's the team they're building, and it's the team that I've been mad that the Raiders didn't have in the last few years.
Yeah, and they got depth too. I think Pete and Whitehair, Whitehair film is not bad, but if Andre James got hurt and they didn't want to move Jackson Powers Johnson to center yet, Whitehair could come and play center. He actually played center pretty well.
Yeah,
last year with the Bears on film, so he could play center, he could play guard. Pete can play tackle, he could play guard. So I think they have good depth on the offensive line. That and because both these guys are, Van Roten actually had like a career year last year, which is interesting. But Pete is just as good as Greg Van Roten at guard.
No, I agree. You sell high on Van Roten, and then you basically try to replicate Van Roten again through Pete, which I think is a good process.
Yeah, exactly. They're kind of the same player, because you could have brought back Van Roten and it just all fall apart.
Exactly. You try it again. Basically, you're like, I'm going to do the buy low on Andrus Pete to basically replace Greg Van Roten. I think that's a good process.
You know what I mean? Because basically that's what you're betting on. You're betting on that Van Roten because he literally had a career year last year. It was like the best year of his career.
It's probably hot that he ain't on the Raiders anymore. Like, what?
He's like, what happened? He got another job. I forgot what team he's on, but he got another job because of that. But he's also, it took him like 10 years. Like, that's a strong bet. I'm not betting on that, to be honest.
Agreed.
So here, what I wanted to point out, how Malcolm Kuntz, where's Kuntz at? Kuntz had like 19, where's his pressures at? He had 31 pressures on 500 snaps. And you think about it, even they just had Max Crosby at 67 on 1,000 snaps. If they both play 800 snaps. That's 120 pressures right there, just between those two guys. And then you add in Wilkins. Wilkins is at 39. That's what I'm talking about here. Because even if you got, Wilson, if Wilson just goes up, if Wilson goes up and replaces Kuntz at 30, Kuntz goes up to 60. Wilkins stays at 40 from the interior, which is damn good. Bro.
Yeah.
It's hell for teams. Hell.
That's what I'm saying. And he's getting the least amount of love for just inserting himself in a group that played pretty well last year. He's getting people are like, I don't know if that moves the needle. It's like, well, it does for me.
Yeah. It's more Kuntz, because you just think about that, man. He really didn't play. He didn't play to the end of the year. Him and Tyree Wilson played just as many snaps, but he had all these way more pressures. The sacks started to add up. He's probably working on his game like crazy. If he takes a leap, man, it is going to be serious for the defense line. The defense line is going to be ridiculous if he takes a leap.
It has to be. I think it's the quarterback. I think it's actually the quarterback of the team this year.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy because there's going to be some games that just take over.
Yeah.
We're going to be like, what the hell is happening? And they're just getting sacks everywhere. And, because Adam Butler is pretty damn good too, man.
He's very good. Yeah, he's very good. No, there's a lot to like there. I mean, it's just there's a I even think was it Janarius Robinson? I mean, guy like that, he comes in and steals a few sacks. Sacks. Everybody talks about pressures. Yes, when you're talking about contracts and whether I pay a guy for 10 years, yes, I look at the pressures. Can he consistently win?
Mm-hmm.
But you got to be able to steal pause here, but you got to be able to steal sacks. You know what I mean? You got to be able to come in unblocked, beat the guy that's supposed to be blocking you, and come in and steal one. When Patrick Graham calls that perfect play, and I think Janarius Robinson is another guy that I think that is going to come in and have 6 or 7.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I mean, linebackers are kind of a little bit of the weak position.
But is it? I thought that last year. I thought it was the biggest need besides, a quarterback upgrade. Yeah, I see the numbers, but to be honest, if Luke Masterson is coming in and playing ball,
yeah.
If Tommy Eichenberg here and there shows out, and is serviceable, is it?
I think it's more about Diablo for me.
Agreed.
Who wins this job, right?
I agree.
If Diablo is such a flash guy. He'll make one play, but then he looks like he has no idea what the fuck he's doing. Another play, you know what I mean? He's everywhere. Masterson feels like he's more of a natural linebacker,
right?
In my opinion. So that's why if I feel like he got more snaps, we'll see better play in the run game. He takes on guards better. He's more physical in that aspect. Spillane, he's hit and miss. Some guards he'll take on, some guards he won't. He's weird. It's the weirdest thing to watch. Some guards he'll just put his neck in there. Some guards is I'm not sure about that. But he actually did better in what we were can he do that? He was better in the pass game than he was in the run game last year, which is super weird. It was the opposite of everything we thought he was. Just because there's even plays that he doesn't make the play where he's in the perfect spot in the zone. He's making a quarterback hold the ball a little bit longer than he was. He was so good in coverage last year. It was weird. Mm-hmm. But I think Spillane's really underrated too. I think Spillane's just because he grew in coverage so well last year.
Yeah.
It was really the opposite coming in on his what I would say his reputation. So I think he has a better chance of taking that next step.
And I just hate watching bad defense, man. I'm just saying, as a fan, just sitting down and watching defense, a good defensive line and competent defense, you're just that's just is pleasing to watch. Yeah, offensive ineptitude is bad, but I think the Raiders will be able to manufacture. But then just watching a defensive line get after it is my favorite thing to watch. So I'm excited. I'm just excited about it. And again, the secondary to me is the problem. Go get a Marshawn Lattimore right now. Go make it special. That's what I'm saying. Why are you so afraid to make it special? That's my big problem. You're not paying a quarterback right now. So Go make it special.
I feel like adding Stephon Gilmore makes it special.
Something, yes, something. Like it doesn't have to be Lattimore. I just mean like go out there and make that big splash. And if he's not good, that's fine. It's like Marcus Peters. You put him off the field. It's not a big deal. Then you realize, okay, I have the guys that I needed this whole time. It's just a great gamble to do with the way the defense is set up. I just wish they had one more corner, and I'd be ready to rock.
Man, if they add it, like, because even like with Gilmore is still giving you 3 elite games. Like, even if you feel like he's up and down or whatever he is, right? He's giving you 3 elite games. Man.
Yeah, just shutting somebody down. I mean, just mirroring them like that movie Annihilation where she's dancing with Natalie Portman. You know what I mean? Like just absolutely stopping everything from happening.
This made me laugh. Like, we got Woo Governor. We don't need.
That's true. That is true. They Antonio Pierce slapped Telesco's hand away from the Marshawn Lattimore trade. It was like, Tom, we have Woo?
We got Woo Governor.
Like that meme where he's whispering to George Bush's ear, sir, we have Woo Governor.
We don't need Stephon Gilmore.
Sir, we have. Yeah, I don't know if
no disrespect to Woo Governor. No disrespect.
Yeah,
sorry.
I love it. No, I love it. I honestly do believe that they are really confident in this roster, though. So I do agree. Woo Governor is look. Hey, he comes in and just goes crazy in the preseason. I'll vote for him for governor.
Yeah. See, Space Beats. I agree with this, but I would love to say this. Actually, to be honest, I want to say this sentence. Like, where was Gilmore in the playoffs? That's something that we should be happy we say. You know what I mean?
Saying playoffs. Yeah.
Come on, Gilmore.
Yeah.
Get the wild card.
Talking about playoffs.
You know, I'm just saying. All right. So let's talk about the quarters right here. So, the whole secondary. So I like how Morig's at the top because I think Morig is a damn good player. He's a good DVOA here too. I mean, I guess is it better to be negative? I never forget. Is it positive or negative?
I'm deferring to you on this. This is already too much numbers for me.
It's too many numbers.
I was like, I like Trayvon Morig. That's my take. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So okay. So let's go. I like Morig a lot. I think Morig is prime for. Do we have to pay him? Do we franchise tag him at the end of the year? I think that's his setup. And it seems like they're not going to pay him before the season starts. So we're going to get to the point. Should we franchise tag Trayvon Morig? I feel like that's going to be a conversation.
Agreed.
And it might be that same conversation with Nate Hobbs. But it's going to be interesting to see what Nate Hobbs does. Jack Jones I didn't know he was 27. God damn, he's that old.
That's weird because isn't he only in year 3?
Is he really that old?
I think Jack Jones was drafted. I believe that last year was his second year in the NFL. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Damn, I did not know he's that old. Anyways, you got Ja'Cory Bennett's 24. Amik Robertson, which what's funny about that one podcast, the Bootleg podcast, they were hyping up Amik Robertson going to the Lions. Do you think that would ever happen? Like,
right. I never heard of. I mean, look, I thought he was good, and I thought he was in the role that he played. I thought he was good, but I never heard anyone go, "I can't believe they let him leave the building." Where was
he's all the hype last fit for the Lions?
Where was the hype
he's
last
a great
year?
Fit.
Well, they don't even talk when they're on the team. They don't even care about him.
Jack Jones is 25.
Okay, yeah, that checks out.
Oh, he's 27th, December 20th. So he's okay.
So he's 26 right now. He's been in the league about 3 years now. That checks out. Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine. I mean, he's a little bit older. That's more about paying him, in my opinion.
No,
long term, right?
But he's gonna have. I mean, apparently, right now he's CB1. So if he has a huge year, then it's not even a conversation, right? Like, yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah.
So this must be like what they're turning in like mid-season. I guess it's these ages, right? I guess.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, because you got Morig and Hobbs. I bet these are the guys that probably end up getting re-signed. I mean, you got Jack Jones for a couple more years. You got Bennett. It's just the secondary just doesn't seem. It's just it just doesn't.
Sorry, I like how nobody agrees on his age in the comments. Like he's Danny Almonte or something like Little League World Series. Like, was he lying?
Yeah.
25. He's 26. No, he's 27. He's 48. He has grandkids. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, him being 27 out here just caught me off guard. I'm like, man, is he that old already?
No, he
What is
probably was
happening?
at ASU for a while. I could see that. Yeah, I could
I
see
mean,
that.
he did have some issues.
Exactly.
Um, but if you just look at this cornerback in the secondary, you're like, oh, it's a little gross. I mean, if you just look at it from this, if I never really looked at it from this aspect, to be honest, and you're like, oh man, they get like
No,
they have some like upside, but it's let's see what they do here.
I do. I like kind of get it though, because it reminds me of like, I know the New York Giants had some guys like Antro Roll and stuff, but like for a while they were kind of just like, we'll put some competent players that can execute a scheme back there. And for the most part, a lot of these guys have been in the scheme.
Mm-hmm.
I would still like one that was where I wanted the splash, was at corner. And there's still guys to do it. There's still guys that would make me happy to do it. But if it hasn't happened yet, I'm kind of like, all right, when's that going to happen? So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like they're gonna get to camp and they're gonna sign somebody really quick.
Yeah, I mean, to me, bringing in Gilmore is just like, I don't think it's Peters. I think it's different. And even then, like, it's like, you talk about Marcus Peters. It's like, I'm not saying he was good for them last year, but it's not like the reason they were bad last year,
Yeah.
even though there were some plays. Absolutely. We all saw it. And he got, one of my favorite things about Antonio Pierce is he just said, see ya, as soon as he got in there. But you do that more than you don't. You bring in the veteran and you try it, and it's not always that bad, and it's not always great. But I bring in a Gilmore every single year because they're always out there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what is a 1-year deal? It's not going to be like expensive.
Exactly. There's always an aging corner that you like. Casey, look, for every Marcus Peters, there's a Casey Hayward. I'll just say that much to Raider fans.
I mean, yeah, Casey Hayward balls. I mean, you can just look at the
Exactly.
pass rank.
They signed him late too, wasn't it? Late. I remember they signed him late. It was like just they brought him in. Everyone's like, he's toast. All right, let's find out.
And he balled all
He
year.
was like the lifeblood of that defense. I mean, it was crazy.
All right. So we talked a lot about kind of the team. I mean, I think that was a good breakdown. Kind of gave us like a. That's why I say it was fair, because I think it gave us a good breakdown of what the Raiders are going to look like this season.
No, I agree.
But let's get to pressing. Let's get to our worst moments here, Glenn.
Okay.
I want to start off with you because I was thinking about this a lot, and there's just so many. So I was like, it really is. And you could be corny, you could be like the Tuck rule.
Well, we're gonna have to talk about that, but I agree. It's kind of like everybody knows it. Everybody was there. Everybody remembers where they were. It was like the same year as 9/11, pretty much. So it was like everyone remembers where they were on both those dates. And it's like, okay, we can rehash it. There's ESPN documentaries about it. Sure, fine. There's like random like week 9s that are like my worst moments, which I hate. Those are also my best moments.
Okay.
Yeah, it sucks. Like I'll kick it off. Tim Tebow, 2010. Dude, he was ass. Like, Tim Tebow was so bad, and we knew it was bad, and he wasn't even Tebow mania yet. The Raiders started Tebow mania, and that was the year. We've talked about this on this program, but like, that was the year where they had Jason Campbell, and they had the most winnable division of all time.
Oh my God.
Where you could have just stumbled in. And I believe the NFC West was similar that year. It was kind of like Seattle, I think that might have been the same year as the Beast Quake, where it was like they were like 7-9 and Marshawn Lynch won the playoff game. Like they had that like route to doing that in the playoffs if they wanted to. And Tebow has a horrible first half against the Raiders. I used to work at a skate park in 2010, and I had it on the radio. Greg Papa, which is the worst part of the receiver documentary, is hearing all the 49ers calls from Greg Papa. It made me sick to my stomach. But there was a play at the beginning of the game where the Raiders were dominating, and they actually had a good defensive line that year. And Tebow drops back and throws, and Greg Papa's call, I'll never forget it, goes, and Tebow drops back and throws to like that. Like he didn't know who the intended receiver was. That's how bad Tim Tebow was. And Greg Papa was on it. Greg Papa would talk about, and they're running the Tennessee Johnson package from the Texas A&M in 1947. Like Greg Papa was on it. He was like, I don't know who the intended receiver was, and they lose that game in this like Greek mythology fashion to Tim Tebow. And then Tebow goes on a run, and then I'm later in the year, I have the flu when they're in the playoff game at Mile High, and Demaryius Thomas, rest in peace. Brian Clark's not able to play because of sickle cell anemia, and then walks into the end zone in overtime. That's the Raiders started that, and yeah, it's bad.
See, because to me, that's one of the worst Raider seasons ever. It's 2011. It just was because they should have won that division, right? They're probably the best team in that division. They really were, and if you think about a lot of the worst Raiders games, they were that year, my dude. One of them, like, okay, because I want to talk about the beginning of the year because I saw this game live. So this is one of my worst losses ever. So I went to the Cardinals Raiders game that year. Yeah. Okay. Now Bruce Gradkowski's he's the starter. Jason Campbell had a couple iffy starts. No, actually, this is 2010. Because this is 2010. Because 2010 is kind of the same thing. I think I got realized by the 6-0, and they went 8-8. But the reason why they didn't make the playoffs and they went 8-8 that year is because this game. And this game has been haunting me for a long time. So Gradkowski starts. They go up there and they go up and down the field right at the end of the game. And I remember this game because I was sitting next to this Raiders fan. Me and this Raiders fan were like sitting right next to each other. And after they got that pass interference, we were high-fiving because it's Sebastian Janikowski from 30 yards out. Like, there's no way he misses. There's no way Raiders are going to win. Literally, if they win that game, they go to the playoffs because they beat the Chiefs a couple times. They win that division. They literally go to the playoffs. They win that game. And he fucking missed it from 30 yards. Bro.
I remember it.
He fucking missed that kick from 30 yards, yo. I was like, I couldn't believe it.
No, I heard that was another radio one for me where I had heard Greg Papa tell me about it was the easiest field goal. He was like, because it's the best. It was the guy that you knew was fine on the team was Janikowski. It was like the guy. It's like get him in Seabass range, which was from the logo in the middle of the field, indoors, and he hooks it. I can't remember if he hooked it or pushed it.
He hooked it because
he hooked it.
I didn't realize he missed it until I saw the Cardinals fans just erupt, and I was like, "What the fuck just happened? How did he miss that kick?" I was literally there with my damn X-Pipe. I was there, It's terrible.
Another one I have. I don't remember the year, but it was Dennis Allen's first game as head coach. So I would say 2012, 2013. I would just guess that. I didn't have this is just weird, but I just hopefully a lot of Raider fans can relate to this. Like, like my wife and I, she's a Raider fan too, and we're like, we wanted to go to the Monday night opener, buy tickets and everything. Mount Davis at the time, like decent tickets, but it's a Monday night opener. And neither of us took the day off of work because we didn't have the way our bank account was set up. It was just not. We weren't skipping days. Like we didn't have. We weren't working those type of jobs, and so we're like jamming to the Coliseum. Anybody from the Bay Area, 880 North traffic on the day of a Raider game, trying to get there on time. Like it's getting to the point where I'm stressing. I like to take my time getting to games, enjoy the ambiance. Not going to happen. We're going to get there right when the kickoff is. So we run to the stadium. We get into the stadium. We're jumping in there, and we're like, it's fine. Al Davis had just gone, and it was like kind of Al Davis era was over. And as much as I love Al at the time, I was ready for something new. So I was like, this is going to be sick. We got this defensive coordinator from the Broncos. This is going to be dope. But we run into the stadium, and the Blue Angels are flying over. It's Monday Night Football. It's when they had the doubleheader. It's the late game. And all of a sudden, I think you already know what I'm going to say. The first special teams play of the game, I can't remember his name. the long snapper. He was there forever with Janikowski, gets hurt.
Yeah.
The rest of the game, they can't punt. It's welcome to Jackass when they're trying to punt, when they're trying to do anything. It is a joke. And the idea that I'm rushing to the stadium to watch this, and I'm going like, what is my problem? What am I doing?
Oh man.
Yeah.
I didn't want to relive that game. I honestly, I forgot that game from my memory. That was John Kondo.
John Kondo, shout out, John Kondo. You're a very important part of the team apparently, because dude, and I don't think they even had a backup, like, or anybody that could. Well, if they did, he should be out of the league. If he was like, I'm a backup long snapper, they're like, you certainly aren't. It was horrendous.
That's a real memory, bro, because that is awful. That's awful memory.
Some tough ones. I'm seeing in the comments, because I already told my story of the couple of times ago being in LA with my dad at the SoFi for the Hunter Renfrow fumble and against the couple of years ago against with the first year with McDaniels. But Cardinals, all these teams, man, terrible. But that was Chargers, and that was a division game, week 1.
Yeah. I mean, because recently there's been some bad games, but it just hasn't been the same.
It's not the same. What would I will say the one that really hurt of the I will say recent was the Arden Key face mask against Ryan Fitzpatrick. That was another one though. That was a bad one. But here's another one: Tennessee Titans, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's a Raider killer.
That game.
You remember? This was another. I think this was during was it during the Allen era? I'm trying to remember.
It was Matt McGloin, because Matt McGloin was the starter.
Matt McGloin was playing. Yeah, so I think it was Dennis Allen. It was when Matt McGloin was playing. I bought tickets, dude. I had tailbone surgery. I had something removed from my tailbone. So I called the Oakland Coliseum. I'm like, hey, do you guys have anything I can like sit on? I mean, I normally stand up during Raider games. But I'm like, do you guys have anything I sit on? They're like, nah, hell no, dude. This is Oakland Coliseum, bro. Hell no. I call them. I get into the stadium, dude, and it's a battle the whole game, and they just get picked apart on the last drive. It is just Fitz magic, and they kick that game-winning field goal, and I'm sitting right behind the net. They kicked the ball, and they were like, "Fuck you, Glenn." They like kicked it to my face, and I was just like sick. I couldn't. It's just these games, man. I mean, everybody's got one. I'm looking at the comments, man. Everybody's got theirs. I love it. It's just. We all went through it. This is like it's like we served together, you know.
See, I was at this game too. See, this is funny.
You were there. I remember you were hitting me up during that time. That's a bad.
I was at that. Because I'm from Arizona, so like I'm always at the Raider Cardinals game. My fucking ex-wife, and then both times, every time, there's
an added element of terror to this one. Yeah.
Is my ex-wife like, yeah, cheering in my fucking ear.
Wearing like a Beanie Wells jersey or something.
Beanie Wells.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Nah, she got the Larry Fitz number 11.
Yeah. It was more Darnell Dockett.
Oh, okay. That shout out. No, he was a beast. Yeah, shout out.
But yeah, I was every time they played the Cardinals, I'm there, and they always like to ruin my life. Except the one year when they should have lost to the Cardinals, and they could have got like Nick Bosa.
Josh Rosen. Yeah, I still think they picked Cleveland Farrell over Nick Bosa. You can't change my mind. Telling you, that would have been even more of a heartbreak. I think it saved them because they would have picked Cleveland Farrell over Nick Bosa.
No way.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like I just wonder if that would have actually happened. Like it's like that would have been even more of a heartbreak. But yeah, that's just like, you know, I don't know. There's so many. We've talked about the Lions game where Rolando McClain's covering Calvin Johnson, which is sad. But to me, just the drafting of Jamarcus Russell, I know a lot of Raider fans were really happy when Jamarcus Russell got drafted, and then they were disappointed by the way he played. I actually hated him the whole time. Like, I actually thought he was not good. I thought that whole LSU team, and it's partially because they dumped on my Notre Dame Irish, and I was like, fuck them. But earlier in that year, Notre Dame played at Georgia Tech, I believe, for the opener, and all of a sudden on NBC, they're highlighting this massive wide receiver. But I thought he was like a defensive end the way they were talking about him. I didn't know who he was. And they're like, this guy, Calvin Johnson, he's a monster. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, that's a wide receiver? And this is a triple option offense. And then it's in the draft, and I'm thinking, Al's going to love this guy, this 6'5" guy that runs like a 4.3 wide receiver. He takes Russell, and a lot of people wanted him. A lot of people wanted him. You can't say that Russell wasn't the number one pick.
He needed a quarterback.
But I was like, dog, I will watch Andrew Walter to Calvin Johnson all day over Jamarcus Russell to who? And I was just thinking that. And then they draft Russell, and just watching that whole year, because he didn't play for a while, but like when he finally played, it was just awful. And you could tell right away it just wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
And which is always weird because Ryan Leaf had half of his quarterback rating as a rookie year, which is crazy how bad Ryan Leaf was. But like still watching him just struggle when you had the number one pick. And the Raiders have not had the number one pick that often. How many times have they had it? Not hardly ever. For as bad as they were in the last 20, 30 years, they never have the number one pick. And I know that's a lot of fans wish they did, but to blow it like that in a class where you had Patrick Willis, Adrian Peterson, Revis. I mean, all these guys, you could have just thrown a dart at a board and just picked a position where the Hall of Famer was at. And you picked this shitty quarterback out of LSU.
Yeah, I agree. I remember this game too. This game was on my birthday. That game was terrible.
2017, was that when Robert Griffin beat them and Matt Flynn was starting?
No. That's the kneeling game. That's the game where they.
Yeah. Monday Night Football. Because I was at the game before against the Jets when I was like, we are winning the Super Bowl. Dude, Garyon Conley comes in. He misses week 1. They beat the Titans at Tennessee, but then Garyon Conley comes in. Jermaine Kearse, nope, I'm swatting you deep down the field. I'm like, oh my God, it's lit. Marshawn Lynch is dancing. Like, it is absolutely lit. We just destroy the Jets. My wife and I just got married. We were like, this is amazing. And then the Redskins game, terrible. Yeah, I agree. You're right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Redskins game, to be honest, that is one of the most embarrassing games because
I forgot. And that was a huge game. I forgot. Yeah.
That was just
they got killed.
Murdered by they were the Redskins at that point, but they got murdered.
Yeah. I mean, the team, that was what was on the team's helmet. Yeah, that was the logo. I mean, they got killed by that team. I mean, the Raiders should have changed their name after that game. I mean, geez, like it was horrible. It was just like, and that was the Del Rio. That was when you found out that Del Rio was ass, kind of, after a pretty magical 2016 year, which also ended in heartbreak. But you were like, okay, Carr's back, we're good, and then that happens.
Yeah.
Of course, you got the Christmas Eve game with Carr. That's rough because I actually think they could have done some damage there.
I think they would have won a playoff game.
I think so too. I think they would have been like kind of that like Texans Bengals era like of that year, kind of like beating one of those two teams. Like I think they had a chance. But there's been a lot. I mean, I see some fans in comments like, why are you bringing up old shit? And I look, I agree, but it is funny. Like it's done, and I do feel more positive about coming up. Like this year coming up, like I feel more positive. There's always going to be heartbreaks, and we kind of like that. We're masochists as NFL fans. We love a close game here and there. For every heartbreak, there's a heartache, and like you wanna try to be on the other side of that. And look, you ask a Charger fan, that they still haven't gotten over the Brandon Staley calling the timeout against John Gruden, hoping for a tie.
Yeah,
right. That game, that was incredible. I mean, that was one of the craziest games I've ever seen of any sport.
And they all ignored Justin Herbert throwing the ball in the stands against the Jaguars.
Agreed. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot. I mean, like the Raiders have been on that side in a couple of games. Like they've done it. I mean, the Chandler Jones. I mean, what a guy that is now. What a name that is for the Raiders. But the Jacoby Myers, who's on the Raiders right now, throwing an interception, or throwing a lateral backwards to Chandler Jones. And there's a lot of that stuff has happened. Like a lot of that stuff has happened.
We'll get positive next week, man. We'll get positive the next show. We'll get you. Man.
Yeah, I mean, it's for sure.
We'll flip it on you. We'll flip it on you, man. We'll get positive.
We'll do it. No, I mean it's July. I mean, like you gotta fill time. Somebody asked me to get a sad channel. I had one for a long time. None of you watched it. Yeah, I I had one. I had one. Yeah, no, I had one. I used to cry all the time on YouTube. Trust me. Like it like it's all there still. Yeah, like yeah, when Henry Ruggs got arrested, dude, it was all bad. Yeah, it was like no, it was all bad.
I don't know what's that. All right, guys. We're out of here. We're almost like an hour 45.
Yeah.
So appreciate you guys coming in here. Got about two. We got the loyal list in here. We got the loyal list in here today.
This is real fan hours. Yeah.
It's real fan July. That's what we'll call it. But we're getting close to training camp, so we're gonna keep this up. Keep you guys going with more content. Check out the member stuff, 53-man projections, all that shit's coming. So just be on the lookout for all of that, guys. Man, we'll get into some more positive stuff. And we are out of here. And make sure it's. Hold on, I gotta get the. Make sure you get. We need some Friday Night Live shirts. Nobody's bought a Friday Night Live shirt, so
be the first.
Hit this right here. Get a Friday Night Live shirt right there. You can get some taped online merch as well if you got it. Thank you for already supporting the channel. And we are out of here, guys. Subscribe. Peace.